So, Good Times Review, doing very well. And apparently, you guys like me giving the verdict at the beginning of the video and getting into the spoilers on the second half of the video. We are going to continue that today. Actually, it's not just going to be today. I'm going to continue doing that going forward. So, thank you for tuning in yet again. I, for one, didn't expect one of the best times I've had in the theater this year to involve a killer vampire ballerina. Let's get into it.
We kidnapped a vampire. A ballerina vampire.
Someone has been messing with us ever since we got here, right? It's got to be some kind of trick.
So Abigail, for starters, is a pleasant surprise. I'm an AMC A-list member, so I see a lot of movies, and I've seen this trailer so many times. It got to the point where it was kind of numbing to me, and I didn't expect a lot from this film, but it's way better than it has any right to be. It has some cool characters. It has a cool setting, like a really cool setting, like this vampire trap house mansion, but it's not a trap house in the sense of like drugs being sold, but an actual trap house. It's really cool. Abigail is a wild girl. Like, she's dancing around using her classical ballerina moves to really whoop everybody's ass. And she is freaking maniacal. It actually makes her a little bit endearing in a weird way. Like, she's so crazy that you almost root for her at one point. It's nuts. Now, the ending is a little bit drawn out, but it's not enough to really take away from the film itself or cause any pacing issues. So the verdict for me is Abigail is unapologetically legit. It's a 4 out of 5. Definitely worth your time. Now, we're getting ready to come up on the spoiler side of this review. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled on like particular story elements, then I suggest stopping the video, going to check the film out, and coming back and checking out the rest of the review. For starters, this is a really cool setup. Essentially, these mercenaries or hired guns or hired kidnappers, whatever you want to call them, go and kidnap this little girl. And the payoff is it's going to be this huge reward payout because her father is filthy rich. And the rules are simple. Don't let her see your face. Only one person is supposed to go in there and talk to her. And you get through 24 hours and you get this huge payout and everybody gets to go home alive. Or so they think. Eventually we find out that Abigail set up her own kidnapping because she wants to kill the enemies of her father, who is like, again, this big drug lord, lord of war, somebody you really don't want to fuck with. She wants to kill them and earn his approval and attention and really have her father in her life. It's a story that's kind of personable in a way, like you wouldn't expect it, especially with how crazy she acts. But it all boils down to a kid who needs her father, even though that kid, you can reasonably assume, is about 200 or 300 years old. Like, she old as fuck. And when this is revealed, that's probably the most exposition-y part of the film. The rest of it is told in a cool way as far as giving character backgrounds. Basically, one character is very observant and she breaks down the rest of the characters' backgrounds. And another character who's also observant turns the tables on her and gives you a little bit of her background as well. So we get caught up really fast and we just move on with the story. Like, the pacing of this film is solid. And having seen 2 other films earlier in the year that had some real pacing issues, that is appreciated. Getting back to the setup, though, it's not entirely unique. Like, I've seen a similar setup in From Dusk Till Dawn, where you had some badasses who were all trapped together in a club or well, yeah, I guess it was a club or a bar rather, and they had to fight from their lives throughout the night. And it's also reminiscent of Ready or Not, which came out a few years ago. Really dope movie. Absolutely worth checking out. Actually, one of the directors of Ready or Not directed this film as well. So that's where those elements come into play at. Abigail is similar to those two. Where it is unique in a way is some of the cool vampire shit that they do, and some of the somewhat reasonable explanations there are that exist as to why she just hasn't eviscerated anyone in the first place. And that comes down to her being sadistic and maniacal and wanting her victims to suffer as she seeks vengeance for her father. And this leads to a dope vampire power that I'm not sure I've seen before. Abigail bites um, one of her victims, and instead of said victim just immediately turning into a vampire or anything, she turns eventually, and Abigail is able to control her kind of like a puppet. And it's really dope how it plays out, man. And I haven't quite seen that in a movie or a TV show. Like I'm used to, things like vampires having a sire line, or people that they're sired to that they can make or compel to do things. But this was dope in its execution. Like I didn't expect that as I was watching the scene play out. And that leads me to another element and big reveal later on in the film. Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie. He is the character that recruits the others to abduct Abigail in the first place. We find out that, well, of course, he's working for Abigail, but he's had a change of heart in terms of working for her, and he wants to be free. And one of his homeboys, another character, uh, he offers to turn him so they can essentially jump Abigail and get their freedom, and just get out of the situation, and also kill her father. Giancarlo Esposito as a vampire, he's not in this movie really long. I'm assuming that's because of the budget. But his time as a vampire in this film is noteworthy, and we definitely need a vampire Giancarlo Esposito film at some point. Like, we need that. He was so creepy, and it looks like he was just having a ball, just like the rest of the people who acted in this movie. Everybody looks like they're having fun, and that bleeds through. So Lambert bites Frank, who is one of the mercenaries that Lambert actually knows and is close with, turning him into a vampire so they can come together and destroy Abigail and also go after her father and take over the whole enterprise. Joey, who is the aforementioned uh, lady character who assesses everyone and essentially figures out all of their backgrounds, is not turned, which I had an issue with that. Like, it would have made sense to try and recruit Joey as well, because it would have been three adult vampires against one child vampire. And Abigail being a child is kind of why the power scale kind of balances out here. Vampire lore is messy, I know, but yeah, long story short, Joey doesn't get turned. Frank gets turned, but Frank double crosses Lambert and decides he's just gonna kill Abigail and Joey. Abigail tells Joey, "Look, if you can help me kill this motherfucker." Oh. Abigail just basically pleads with Joey and asks for help with killing Frank. A long, drawn out fight happens, and it doesn't hurt the pace of the film, but I feel like in this sequence the action could have been a little bit tighter. And yeah, it's like it's a huge seesaw back and forth kind of fight, and Frank just keeps getting the upper hand over and over again until they ultimately kill him. Also, when a vampire dies in this film, like, they explode and it's like blood and guts and stuff everywhere. It's grotesque, but it works and fits the all of the over the top elements that this movie has leading up to the bloodletting and the violence. So everything fits, but it is horrible when a vampire dies. So Joey and Abigail are cool. Abigail just basically gives Joey some advice and then, like, look, just show up for your kid and everything is going to be fine. That's what your kid is going to always remember you for. Yeah, I know you've had some issues in the past with drugs and stuff, but just be there for your kid. And she's basically speaking from someone or as someone whose father hasn't really been there until the end of this movie. I already felt like this was going to be the case when I saw the trailer for the thousandth time. And there are some hints at it leading up to the reveal throughout the film. But Abigail's father is Dracula. They don't use the name Dracula explicitly. And I had to kind of look it up to confirm it. But he's definitely Dracula. And he is so creepy and intimidating. Like the way he comes in, the camera is kind of behind him and over the shoulder, and he just towers over Joey. And Abigail immediately starts pleading with him. Look, no, this is the person who actually saved me. We cleared out all of the killers and everything. And Dracula is like, I'm not hearing none of that shit. I heard you was in trouble. I came to kill people and rip people apart. Here we go. Abigail is ultimately able to convince him not to kill Joey. Joey gets out alive, and that's a wrap. And again, this vampire film doesn't break the mold in terms of vampire films, but it's concise, it's pretty tight, it's well executed, and it's certainly worth your time. Like I really had a lot of fun watching Abigail, and I can't wait for it to come out on streaming. I'm definitely gonna look at it again. It's one of my favorites this year, no doubt. So, Abigail, have you seen it? Let me know in the comments. Continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe if you already haven't. I know that sounds funny, but here we are. And thank you so much for engaging with me, for checking out my videos. I truly appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek, and I am